Okay, so if you're here, kindly type the word annular in the chat box. Annular. It's an annular ligament. Okay. All right, I'll start. So we're done with the shoulder. I'll proceed with the next region in our upper extremity, your elbow complex. So again, we call it a complex because it's still not made up of just one joint. The elbow is a combination of a total of three joints, and if we include the forearm, then four joints in total. Okay, so it's much less complicated compared to the shoulder. Not much is going on here, but it does play a role in making the entire upper extremity more functional. Okay, it provides stability. Now, it's actually more stable than it is mobile because you can only do flexion and extension in the elbow region itself, and then you can do the rotation in the forearm area. So, because of its bony congruence, so it has better bony alignment between the humerus and the proximal end of our ulna and radius. So it is much more stable compared um, to the shoulder joint, okay, to the glenohumeral joint. So it has better bony congruence, especially when you do close kinematic chain activities. So there's less risk for dislocation, although you can still have elbow dislocation. Okay, if you place it in a vulnerable position, and usually the cause is trauma. Okay, traumatic activities or traumatic events that can push the elbow out of its normal alignment, but it's much less common compared to shoulder dislocation. So the purpose of our elbow is to bring the hand closer to the shoulder or closer to the face. So, for example, feeding. Now, when you eat, you need the shoulder, the elbow, and the wrist and hand to do all of the activities you need to slice a piece of cake. And then you need the elbow to bring the spoon or the fork closer towards the mouth. So, the elbow flexion and extension, it's mostly to lengthen or shorten the distance between the hand, the shoulder, and of course, your face. Okay, so if you lack elbow flexion and extension, then you will lack that ability for the hand to communicate with the proximal ends or the more proximal part of the body. Okay, and then the rotation will just add to the refinement of movement by pronating, supinating, or placing the hand in the mid-prone position for specific functional activities. Okay, so again, it's a combination of three joints. That's why it's a complex. So it's a modified hinge pivot joint or pivot joint because it combines two of our elbow elbow joints plus one forearm joint. Okay, so 2 degrees of motion. It allows flexion, extension, and rotation into pronation and supination. Okay, so in our elbow, this is the picture. You have the distal humerus, and then you have the radius and the ulna. So the ulna is the one with the olecranon process. Okay. In the distal humerus, so you have a prominence laterally and medially. So these are your epicondyle, so attachment areas for the muscles of our wrist and hand. So you have the medial epicondyle and the lateral epicondyle. Okay. And then at the distal end of, excuse me, you have the distal end of the humerus, you have this hourglass shaped structure. The more circular one, what do we call this? This one, oh. What part of the distal humerus is this one? The circular attachment here. What is this? What do we call that bony prominence in the distal humerus? Because that is the specific landmark in the humerus that comes in contact with your radius. Okay, that is your, isa lang ang naka-remember. That's your capitulum. Okay, this circular end or bony landmark is the capitulum. Okay, it comes in contact with the head of the humerus later to form one of the joints in the elbow. What about this one? this hourglass-shaped structure located medial to the capitulum. That's the trochlea. That's why the proximal end of your ulna has what we call the trochlear notch. No, this one, the trochlear notch, because it needs to accommodate the shape of the trochlea of the humerus. Okay, this now will come in contact with the ulna to form the humero-ulnar joint. Well, the capitulum will come in contact with the head of the humerus, head of the radius to form your humeroradial joint. Okay, so that's two of the three joints already. Okay, between the radius and the ulna, that's the radio-ulnar ligaments, your radio-ulnar joints. You have one at the top and you have one at the bottom. That's why you have the proximal and the distal radio-ulnar joints later. Okay, ayan. Humeroradial, humero-ulnar, proximal, and the distal radio-ulnar joints. So the joints that are included in the three joint complex of the elbow are the ones in red. Okay, humeroradial, humero-ulnar, and your proximal radio-ulnar joint. Okay, ito yung three joint complex of, sorry, that's joints of the elbow. Hindi ko lang na-edit. This is joints of the elbow. Okay, three joint complex of the elbow. This is not shoulder. Okay, let's go to the humero-ulnar. Again, it's between the trochlea of the humerus and the trochlear notch of the ulna. Okay, the trochlea is the convex surface, while our trochlear notch is the concave surface. So whenever we move our humero-ulnar joint later, the concave surface is the one that moves. So the arthrokinematic motion, the gliding will happen in the same direction as the bone. Okay, so it becomes easier. It's much easier to do gliding arthrokinematic motions when you mobilize the elbow, because you just have to move it in the same direction as the bone. Okay, kasi concave man ang mag-move. So this is a hinge joint. Therefore, it can only move in one plane, in one axis. It's 1 degree of freedom. You can only do flexion and extension. If you want to put your humero-ulnar joint in an open tuck position, you just have to flex it at 70 degrees and then put it in around 10 degrees of supination. Okay, slightly supinated lang siya. So 70-10. 70 degrees flexion and 10 degrees supination. That's the open pack position of your humero-ulnar joint. And to put it in a stable, close-packed position, you just have to fully extend and fully supinate the elbow. Okay, full extension and full supination. That's why when you have to apply weight, or you have to put weight on your upper extremity, you do it with the elbow extended and supinated, because it will lock the elbow in place. Okay, if you put weight on an elbow that is already flexed, it is more likely to collapse because you are not in a close pack position. Okay, so the capsular pattern, you will have more limitation in flexion, more inflection compared to extension. The capsular pattern is flexion will be more limited than extension. Okay, so among the three joints in our three joint complex of the elbow, it's the humero-ulnar joint that provides the most stability, because siya yung may actual na hawak sa humerus. The trochlear notch, no, it encompasses the trochlea. So it provides more bony congruency compared to the capitulum na nakapatong lang or is just sitting on top of your radius. Okay? So if you have to choose among the three joints, who among them provides the most stability, it's your humero-ulnar joint. Okay? Because naka-attach siya fully ang notch to the trochlea. So our arthrokinematic movements, again, the concave surface is moving. Therefore, the gliding will occur in the same direction as the bony segment. So if you do elbow flexion, flexion is moving anteriorly. Diba? You're moving anteriorly, flexing it forward. So when you do joint mobilization, it should be going also in the anterior direction. If you want to extend the elbow, it's moving backwards. So if you want to mobilize the humero-ulnar joint, you just have to glide it downwards. So downwards for extension, anteriorly or, sorry, backwards. Backwards kasi pag ganyan naman yan. So anterior, glide for flexion, posterior glide for extension. Okay, so it's easy to mobilize, to remember how to mobilize this one kasi same direction. What's hard for elbow mobilization is it's very stable, so it's hard to distract the joint. Okay, lisod birahon ang joint kay stable man siya. Okay, so you actually need more force to pull the bony segments apart to do the gliding motion. Okay, so same direction. So the total amount of range of motion that you can do is 150 degrees of elbow flexion. Okay, so if you flex the elbow like this and measure it with a goniometer, the maximum that you can have in a normal joint is 150. But you can have less than 150, especially if the patient has more muscle bulk or if gifted siya with more adipose tissue. Okay, kung medyo fatty ang area or you have a big muscle bulk here from the biceps and the brachialis, then you will stop earlier. Okay, if the patient is also very, very thin, no, they have an atrophied muscle here, then you would expect to have more than 150 degrees because the one that stops the motion is the soft tissue. That's why the end feel for this one is soft end feel. Okay. In the shoulder earlier, I wasn't able to add the end feels, but most of our shoulder motions will stop because of the passive tension of the ligaments in the capsule and the muscle. That's why most of our shoulder motions will have a firm end feel, meaning you will feel a stretch. That's why the motion stops. For elbow flexion, you will have soft tissue contact. That's why soft end feel siya. And when you extend, okay, when you extend, usually it's a hard or a bony end feel because the olecranon process will come in contact with your olecranon fossa. Okay, you can feel that actually if you do full extension, especially sa mga payat, mutingog pa gani na siya. You can appreciate that bone-to-bone contact at the end of elbow extension. Okay, so 150 to 0 with a bony or a hard end feel. So it's one of the very few parts of the body that will have a bony end feel na normal. Okay, so that's the humero-ulnar joint. The humeroradial joint is the connection or the articulation between your capitulum and your fovea of the radius. So the head of the radius has a slight depression here to accommodate your capitulum on top. So na siya, mulalum siya gamay para dito niya sa loon ang circular end of your capitulum. So there's a slight depression on top of the radial head. We call that your fovea. Okay, so it's also a hinge joint. It can only allow flexion and extension because it's a 1 degree of freedom or uniaxial joint. So since it doesn't really have that full attachment to the trochlea, to the humerus, the position for its open packed and closed packed becomes different. Okay, it has a different open and closed packed position despite having the same motion as your humero-ulnar joint. So the open packed position now is in full extension and full supination. So ang closed packed position ni humero-ulnar kanina, it's the open packed position of your humeroradial. Okay? So the open pack position of your humeroradial joint is the same as the closed pack position of your humero-ulnar joint. And then the closed pack position of your humeroradial joint is 90 degrees flexion with 5 degrees supination. So very little supination lang. Okay? The humero-ulnar joint earlier had an open pack position of 70 degrees flexion and 10 degrees supination. For the humeroradial, its open pack position is full extension with full supination. Close pack position ni humero-ulnar is full extension and full supination. Close pack position ni humero-radial is 90 and 5. 90 degrees flexion, 5 degrees supination. Okay? So both of them are different because they have different surfaces. Okay? They don't attach to the humerus the same way. Okay? Different surface on the radius, different on the ulna. Different din ang attachment site nila. Okay? So the capsular pattern is flexion more than extension. So flexion is still more limited than extension, but because of its close proximity to the proximal radio-ulnar joint, the humeroradial joint can also be limited when you do supination and pronation. Okay? So this one doesn't really have a very good attachment to the humerus, but that's okay because the one that does that will be the humero-ulnar joint. What's important with your humero-radial joint is that that space between the capitulum and the fovea, it allows for load transmission or force transmission. Okay, whenever you put weight on the hand, tukuran nimo imong kamot, so there is absorption of load happening in the humeroradial joint. Naman siya space between the fovea and your capitulum. So the space there allows for movement during load transmission when you put weight on your hand. Okay? Do we get it? Claro ito so far. Okay? So the capitulum is the convex surface and your fovea, the depression, is the concave surface. So if you want to mobilize the humeroradial joint, same lang siya sa humero-ulnar joint. You're still going to move it in the same direction. So glide it anteriorly for flexion and glide it posteriorly for extension because you're still moving the concave surface. Okay? So again, because of the space between the capitulum and the fovea, there's really no direct contact, or there should be no direct contact between the radius and the humerus. There will always be that space. No, unless kung nagka-arthritis ka na, or you're always putting weight on that extremity. Okay, in full extension, my space. There is space between the capitulum and your fovea of the radius. So it will still contribute to the same amount of flexion and extension. 0 to 150 degrees of flexion and 150 to 0 of extension. If the patient has hyperextension, meaning it went beyond 0 degrees, then that's already abnormal because the bone-to-bone contact should not allow more motion to happen. Okay, baka hypermobile si patient. Okay, so in your elbow joint, in the flexion and extension part, no rotation yet, the functional range in order for you to do your daily activities normally is there should be movement from 30 degrees to 130 degrees. So why is this important? So in our daily living, activities of daily living, you only need up to 130 degrees of flexion daw. So if you ever have a patient with with an elbow injury later, no, it's not it's not that necessary to be able to reach 150 degrees before you discharge a patient because not all activities of daily living will require the full ROM of the elbow. That's why there are patients, as long as they reach the 130-degree mark, they will be functional already. So no need to continue going to PT if they are already functional. Okay? Sometimes we discharge a patient early even though they don't have 150 degrees of flexion yet. Kasi functional naman sila, they can already be functional as long as you reach the 130 degrees of flexion. Okay? So I'm not saying na sa lahat ito, pero may ibang patient kasi who cannot afford continuous physical therapy treatment. So our goal will be, for those patients, our goal will be to make sure they are able to reach the functional range of motion so we can discharge them earlier. Okay? So as long as they are functional and no longer in pain, then you can discharge them. Okay? It's not necessary na 150 degrees ang normal. I really have to reach 150 degrees. So that might not be possible, especially for, let's say, fracture patients. So when a fracture heals, it doesn't really go back to normal. So it might not be possible for that patient to reach the normal 150 degrees. So our goal will just be to reach the normal functional range, which is within 30 to 130 degrees. Do we understand this? Do we understand that? Okay? Because you might become too idealistic. No? Oh no, you have to continue coming here, sir. 6 more months until we reach 150 degrees. Your patient might not be able to afford 6 months more of PT. So the goal will be to make the joint functional. Okay? So again, most of our daily activities only require 30 to 130 degrees of flexion. So you don't have to be very ok-ok or very OC, very idealistic. No, 150 degrees talaga. So not necessarily. Okay? Between 30 to 130. Okay? When we go to the radio-ulnar joints, this one, the two of them no longer have a contribution on the flexion and extension. So your radio-ulnar joints are now concerned with forearm rotation, which is supination and pronation. Okay? So proximally, the radius and the ulna, they meet through the head of the radius and the radial notch at the ulna. Okay, so the convex one here is the head of the radius, circular, and then the concave radial notch. So this one is a pivot joint or a pivot joint, meaning it rotates. So the only action happening in the proximal radioulnar joint is rotation. Okay, it's 1 degree, it's uniaxial, it only rotates. So your proximal radioulnar joint has an open pack position of 70-35. 70 degrees of flexion and 35 degrees of supination. So it's close to the open pack position of your um, humero-ulnar joint. Humero-ulnar is 70-10. Okay, your PRU is 70-35. Okay, 70 degrees sila both of elbow flexion, 10 degrees supination for your humero-ulnar, and 35 degrees supination for your proximal radio-ulnar joint. So, ang giniisip na ko dira, basta ulnar, gani siya, 70 na siya. Okay, di ba? Humero-ulnar, 70-10. Proximal radio-ulnar, 70-35. Okay? And then closed pack position will be in 5 degrees of supination lang. The capsular pattern here is equally limited. Supination and pronation they are both equally limited. So it doesn't matter. Both of them will be limited if you have a capsular problem. Okay? So again, 1 degree, rotation lang. The point of axis for the rotation is the radial head. That's why it's very important that the radial head stays intact or properly aligned. Okay? The problem here is that the radial head is only kept in place by a single ligament, your annular ligament. Okay, so if you have a problem with the annular ligament, the rotation or the spinning that happens here might be displaced. So it's very important that the radial head is kept in place by the annular ligament. Okay, ikot-ikot lang yan siya dyan. Okay, because if you don't have the annular ligament, the spinning might go in a manner that is not properly aligned to the joint. Masaag siya. Tuyok-tuyok. Pag tuyok-tuyok niya, masaag siya. Okay, it can displace whenever it rotates if it doesn't have that stabilizing annular ligament. Okay, so when it rotates like this, it rotates in the opposite direction because the one that moves is your convex surface. So when you supinate, the supination is facing anteriorly, diba? The palms, you are trying to rotate it so that the palms face anteriorly. So the rotation will be backwards. Sorry. The rotation, the spinning will be, wait lang ha. Mag-supinate, yes. So like this. So when you supinate, it will be spinning anteriorly. And then when you pronate, you will be spinning it posteriorly. Sorry, the concave convex surface will not really apply here because hindi naman siya gliding, it's spinning. So the spinning will be anterior for supination and then posterior for pronation. So spinning lang siya. Ikot mo lang siya anteriorly and iikot mo lang siya posteriorly. Okay, don't worry, you just have to remember the motion. You will do this one in your TheraX next sem. Okay, we'll actually get to mobilize joints next sem. Just remember the directions. Okay, supination, muhayang man siya, mo face siya anteriorly. So the spin should be going anteriorly. Since in pronation, you are turning the forearm and the hand backward. So you are spinning the head posteriorly. Okay? Spinning lang siya. And then the point of spinning or the axis of spinning will be the radial head. That's why it's important to keep it in place. And the ligament that does that is your annular ligament. Okay? If ever you have a radial head dislocation or a radial head fracture, this will disrupt the ability of the forearm to supinate and pronate. Okay? It will make it harder to supinate or pronate the forearm even though you have a normal elbow flexion and extension. Okay? Because you no longer have that point of axis. So a very common condition, especially in the pediatrics, no, because of the way we handle kids, even the caretakers or the parents might make this mistake, is the pulling of the hand. So we call this your nursemaid elbow or your pulled elbow. Familiar na? Was this introduced in your limbanat? Okay. Diba? So it's just holding on to the head like this. So if there is eggshell pulling, no, the caretaker is pulling on the arm, no, birahon niya ang bata, so it might dislocate the head. It might move out of its normal position within the annular ligament. Okay, it gets pulled. That's why it's pulled elbow. So this one, since bata, it usually happens in kids. They can recover quite faster compared to adults. Mas mabilis yung recovery as long as relocate, as long as the head is relocated, no, reduced back into its original position. So it will require intervention. Ibalik siya dito sa sulod. Okay, that's your nursemaid's elbow. That's dislocation of the radial head. So it will disrupt your proximal radioulnar joint. Okay, so distal to the forearm, there is still a connection between the radius and the ulna, your distal radioulnar joint. So this one now is a plain joint. Sorry, hindi yan na-edit. This is plain joint. Okay, plain ito, plain or gliding joint. It's between the head of the ulna and the ulnar notch. Okay, ganyan lang kasi yan siya. It just slides around. So it's a plain joint. 1 degree because it only allows or helps with the pronation supination that happens above. Open pack position is 10 degrees supination. Closed pack position is 5 degrees supination. Okay, capsular pattern is full ROM, so that's full pronation and supination. And pain at extremes, meaning painful at end range. So, sagad na pronation at sagad na supination. It will be more painful during that range. Okay, again, this is a plain joint. Plain joint. 1 degree because it only helps to allow pronation and supination. Okay. Yes. So, the point of movement here is the ulnar styloid process. So, since it's a plain ba to? Let me get back on that. Baka tama naman yung slide ko. So, lagyan ng star. Balikan ko kayo dyan. As far as I know, this is a plain joint. Anyway, So in pronation, it goes like this. So the one that moves now will be your still the radius, okay? Because your ulna cannot move properly since it's attached to the humerus. So whenever you pronate, it goes back like this. Supinate. Pronate. Okay. When you pronate, it goes like this. When you supinate, okay. Diba dalawang bone siya? So when you pronate, the radius will cross. And then when you supinate, it goes back like this. So like this and like this. The ulna will stay in place because it's attached to the humerus. It's the radius that crosses the forearm. So it goes like this during pronation, and then it goes back like this during supination. Okay, so pronation, supination. During pronation, it will glide anteriorly, and pag mag-supinate na siya, it will go backwards. So it will glide posteriorly. Okay, so it glides like this anteriorly during pronation because it will cross during pronation. And then it goes back to its original position backwards or posterior glide during supination. Do you get it? Okay. So I think I have a photo for this. Yeah. So in the proximal radioulnar joint, again, it's just a pivot joint. It just rolls in place as long as you have the annular ligament keeping the head in place. Okay. In the distal radioulnar joint, the radius will cross over the ulna during pronation, and then it will go back to its original position next to it or parallel to it during supination. Okay? So same direction yan silang lahat. Okay? So both joints will contribute to pronation supination. So both pronation and supination also can reach 80 degrees. So 80 degrees of pronation and 80 degrees of supination. But in order to isolate the pronation supination, mangyari lang dapat siya sa forearm, we need to flex the elbow. Because when you do pronation supination with the elbow extended, baka tumulong ang shoulder. The shoulder might also rotate into internal rotation and external rotation. So that's cheating. Because if you have limited forearm pronation, but the shoulder helps in the downward movement of the entire extremity, it might hide the fact that you have limitation in the forearm. Okay? Whenever you are assessing the forearm pronation supination, make sure the elbow is flexed. Because if it is extended, whenever you do pronation or supination, the shoulder might also go into internal rotation and external rotation. Remember that the shoulder muscles are bigger than your elbow muscles. So it might lead you to think na normal ang pronation supination, but the movement of the forearm actually happened because of the shoulder movement. Okay? Do we get it? If you want to assess for the forearm pronation supination without any compensatory or substitute motions, you have to do it with the elbow flexed. Because if you extend the elbow, it gives the shoulder joint the opportunity to help the forearm, okay, by internally and externally rotating. That's why later when you go to your PT evaluation subject, the way we we measure with the goniometer, kailangan naka-flex talaga ito. Okay, elbow flexion talaga siya. Because if you do it like this, the shoulder might also help like this in external and internal rotation. Mag-follow man siya. Okay, the whole arm will rotate. That's why we need to do it with the elbow flexed. Okay, para dili mo tabang ang shoulder. Nagets yon? Okay. So combined motion, so it can reach up to 180 degrees. Okay. So most of the time firm ito. Bony for pronation can only happen if the patient is very thin. Okay, so the normal end feel for pronation and supination is firm because you will be stretching the ligaments and the interosseous membrane. Okay, so this is the interosseous membrane in between your ulna and your radius. Okay, nagets yon for our four joints. So, easy lang sila. Flexion, extension, and rotation lang yung mangyayari dyan. Okay? In terms of stabilization, again, it's already very stable because of its bony congruence. Meaning um, maganda na yung shape ng bones mismo because it helps, especially the humero-ulnar joint. It's already no very stable. But the body needs to make sure that it stays that way. That's why we also have other structures that will contribute to the stability. Now, flexion, extension, and rotation. So to add to the stabilization, we have your ligaments. Okay, your collateral ligaments. When we say collateral ligaments, on the sides, on the medial end, on the lateral end. Okay, for more stabilization. And then the soft tissue surrounding the area will also help with the stabilization. We already discussed the annular ligament earlier. This one will help stabilize the head of the radius against the ulna so that whenever it rotates, it will not dislocate. Okay? And then the interosseous membrane between our two bones or two parallel bones. And you have the smaller quadrate and the oblique cord. So let me go back to the picture. So this is the oblique cord. No, it's oblique. No, it still connects the proximal end of our ulna to the shaft of the radius. And the quadrate ligament, which is just very, very cute. No, it kind of helps the annular ligament. Okay, but they're too small to really do something. Okay, just to reinforce. And then you have the TFCC. It doesn't really play a role in our elbow complex because it has more of a role in the wrist and hand later. But no, we are adding it here because the TFCC also assists in the load transmission. Okay? Whenever mutukod ka sa imong kamot, for example, you fell forward, no, you had a fush injury. Are we familiar with fush? Fush injury. Yes. Okay. Diba? Fall on an outstretched hand. So whenever you fall on your hand, so no, if normal ang bony structure mo, normal ang alignment, okay, your TFCC and the interosseous membrane should help with the load transmission. Okay, so that the bones in the carpals will not fracture, so that the forearm will not fracture, it will distribute the forces. Okay, so the TFCC is added here because it helps the interosseous membrane transmit the load so that it doesn't cause problems or fractures in the area whenever you wait there. Okay, do we get that? So inherently stable already. Plus, we have structures that will help us with load transmission. Okay. Another unique feature in our elbow is the carrying angle. This one familiar na din ito because this should be in limb anatomy, correct? Diba? So even though our bones are long, no long bone, the humerus is a long bone, the radius and the ulna are long bones, it's not parallel or it's not directly straight or aligned na straight siya. Okay, they're not perpendicular, they're not straight because there's a slight angulation happening at the elbow region. Okay, it also has something to do with hindi pantay ang height ng medial epicondyle and lateral epicondyle. So at the distal end of of the humerus, it's not straight. Okay, one part is slightly longer. That's why muhiwit siya. Okay, there's a slight lateral deviation at the elbow level. And you can view this more prominently, this angle, this cubital or carrying angle, when the arms are facing forward. Okay, the shoulders are externally rotated, the elbow is extended, and the forearm supinated. Okay, so since you know the carrying angle, what is the normal carrying angle in males and in females? Can you recall the normal carrying angle? Or who has a larger carrying angle na lang? Males or females? Okay. Ba't may nag-answer ng male? So why? Why do females have a greater carrying angle? Can you recall? Okay, figure hips. Wider pelvis. Okay, because of the wider pelvis. Okay, one of the established functions or purpose of our carrying angle is to make sure the arms will not hit the pelvis or the hip when you walk. Diba? When you do normal gait, when you walk, the arms will swing. So the carrying angle can make sure that the arms will not hit the pelvis or the hips because of that angulation. Okay, di siya masangit dira. Okay, apart from that, it is also more functional to carry object no, with a slight lateral angulation. Okay, compared to naka-straight siya like this. Okay, straight siya like this. When you carry something, medyo naka-slightly abduct yan siya. Okay, so the carrying angle, kaya siya carrying angle because it makes carrying objects easier as well. Okay, so that also makes it easier to do hand-to-mouth motions. Okay, so that's the theorized purpose of the carrying angle. But it usually angulates that way because one part of the humerus is longer than the other one. So, muhiwi siya. So, 5 to 10 for males and 10 to 15 for females. Okay. If you have any abnormalities in your carrying angle, that's what we call your cubitus valgus or cubitus varus. Okay, if more than 15 degrees siya, then that's cubitus valgus. If it's less than 5 degrees, then that's your cubitus varus. Okay, valgus and varus. So, why is this relevant? So, if you have too much angulation in the elbow, it might stress your ligaments more. Okay, it will stretch the concerned ligament, whatever the direction is. For example, here, if you have cubitus valgus, the ligament on this side will be stretched. Okay, if it stays that way for long, it will no, it will become lax. This might cause or it might increase the risk of instability or dislocation in this direction. Okay, same if you have cubitus varus. If you go into more varus, it will stress the ligament on this side. Okay, and the medial side of the elbow and the lateral side of the elbow, no, it doesn't only contain ligaments, it also has other structures passing through the area. So, for example, medially, here you're not only stressing your medial collateral ligament, no, you have a nerve that passes through here. So, if you have excessive valgus on that side, you might injure that nerve as well. Okay, pwede ni mo maipit ang nerve na moagi po dinha if you have an excess in cubitus valgus. Okay, do we understand? You're not only going to stress a ligament, you might stress the other anatomical structures that pass medially or lateral to the elbow. Okay? So very common yan siya. They're not really complaining of the unstable elbow. They're complaining because they start to feel tingling sensation in the hand. See, whenever the elbow no, becomes unstable and pushes laterally, it causes impingement of a nerve. So, nagkaroon siya ng symptoms in the hands. Okay, nerve symptoms in the hand. Because you're impinging or you're pushing against another structure because of the instability. Okay. The third one here, your gun stock deformity, because it looks like a gun, shotgun. So it happens when you have a fracture no, on the distal humerus. So at the distal ends of your long bones, we talked about the epiphyseal plate earlier. So the epiphyseal plate, no, before it fuses, it's a plate. Once nag-fuse na siya, it becomes the epiphyseal line. It's where the bone grows. So if you had a fracture on the distal humerus, it might affect the area of the epiphyseal plate. So an epiphyseal injury, when you have an injury there, it might stop the bone growth, especially if this fracture occurred in a still growing child. Hindi pa nag-fuse, hindi pa siya adult. So that abnormality in the growth might lead to a gunstock deformity. Okay? pangit ang alignment. So they lost the carrying angle. So the hand will look awkward and it will be more difficult to do hand to mouth activities. There's a term for a gunstock deformity. Unsa ni siya sa Bisaya gani? Nani siya term? Singkaw. If you're familiar with that. Pag napiang ka, masingkaw ka. Because, yes, singkaw. Okay? Because you lose the carrying angle. Especially if distal humeral fracture siya. Okay? So try to observe if you have friends who have had a fracture in that area before. So my cousin had one before, so ngayon singkaw na siya. So gunstock deformity pala yun. Okay? So again, the interosseous membrane. So it's a fibrous type of joint. It limits mobility. It stabilizes the ulna and the radius together. And at the same time, it also helps transmit forces. Okay, load transmission. So whenever you, again, pag natukod ang kamot, you put weight on the hand, the forces from the third law of motion, you have the ground reaction forces. So whatever weight you put on the ground or on that surface, it will go back to you, but it should not fracture the hand because it will be transmitted through the TFCC and then through the interosseous membrane, through the radial, humeroradial joint. It goes up the humerus. So eventually, it will be redistributed to the rest of the body. So unless there is a point of weakness in the upper X, then you will get a fracture. So this also explains why when you get a fush injury, ang pinaka-common na area na magka-fracture is actually the clavicle. Okay, the clavicle is the most commonly fractured bone in the upper X because in the middle third of that bone, it's very weak. So when the load is transmitted from the hand going upwards, it can fracture the clavicle. Okay, so apart from load transmission and stability of your radioulnar joints, it is also a point of attachment for our forearm and wrist and hand muscles. So deep muscles of our wrist and hand are also attached to the interosseous membrane. Okay, so it keeps the radius and ulna together even when you are rotating the forearm like this, and it also helps transmit forces. So if the patient is exposed to something, a physically traumatic event, for example, fall from a height, or what do you call this? They fell on an outstretched hand, but at a much higher height, falling from a second floor, and then you tried to land on your extremities. So it can fracture the bones and it can also tear your interosseous membrane. So this one they have to be surgically corrected, no, para ma-connect siya og usab, because you will lose a lot of your load transmission. The ability to transmit loads whenever you weight bear on the upper extremity. Okay. Do we understand the purpose of our surrounding structures? Okay. So we only have a few muscles here because most of the muscles that you can find in the elbow and the forearm are just passing through. We have more muscles moving the hands, the wrist and the hands. So only a few actually move the elbow because you only need to do flexion, extension, pronation, supination. So konti lang ito sila. Okay? So the brachialis, so it's the largest of our elbow flexors. You can locate this one just under your biceps brachii. So it does not contribute to any rotation at all. It is only focused on elbow flexion. Okay? Wala siya labot sa shoulder, wala po siya labot sa imuhang forearm. It only acts to flex the elbow. Okay? It's the largest elbow flexor and it is considered as the workhorse of the elbow. When we say workhorse, it's the most active, siya ang pinaka-active na muscle for elbow flexion. Okay? It acts kasi regardless of the forearm position. The biceps, diba? It's a strong elbow flexor when the forearm is in supination. Okay? While your brachioradialis mamaya, it's a strong elbow flexor if the forearm is positioned in mid-prone or neutral rotation. Your brachialis, it doesn't care what position the forearm is in, it will still work. Okay? It will still contract maximally regardless of the forearm position. That's why it's a workhorse because it will keep on contracting no matter the position of the forearm. Okay? And if you angle it properly, it has the greatest moment arm. So it's easiest to do elbow flexion when the elbow is in 90 to 100 degrees. Diyan siya pinakamalakas. So if you want to challenge the brachialis, don't be at 90 to 100 degrees of flexion because it will be the easiest for the brachialis to contract in that angle. Okay? So challenge it by moving beyond 100 or better yet, below 90 para eccentric siya. Okay? So workhorse. So lumabas yan sa boards namin before. This is the workhorse of the elbow flexion. Then you look for brachialis. Okay? And biceps brachii is a strong elbow flexor if the forearm is in supination. Okay? It's recruited specifically when the forearm is in supination. But it's a multi-jointed muscle. It flexes the elbow, it flexes the shoulder, and it supinates the forearm. Okay? So greatest moment arm is at 90 to 110 degrees. So for your elbow flexors, we don't challenge them by putting them in the greatest moment arm because it will be much easier for them to contract in that angle. So do it less than 90 or more than 110 degrees. Okay? But the problem with more than 110 degrees is that you're no longer really allowing the angular motion to happen. It goes into a parallel component that will compress the joint. So if you want to strengthen the biceps or the brachialis, do it less than 90 degrees. Okay, if you want to challenge it. Okay, this is the brachialis. It will be covered by the biceps. So ito si brachialis na sa likod. So when we palpate for this one in the laboratory, we have to identify the biceps first so that we do not accidentally put our hand over it because they have the same function, elbow flexion. So you will feel something whenever you resist the motion. That's why we need to find the biceps first and then palpate behind it because that's where the brachialis is. Okay? Nagets yon? Gets yon? Hello? Okay. So next you have the brachioradialis. So this is one of the two muscles that are located originating from the supracondylar ridge, on the lateral supracondylar ridge of the humerus. Because all of our other muscles will come from the epicondyles na. So dalawa lang yan sila na nasa lateral supracondylar ridge. Your brachioradialis and your ECRL. So this one is the longest elbow flexor because it reaches up to the styloid process of the radius here. Okay, so it will flex the elbow and rotate it towards the mid-prone position. Okay, up to mid-prone lang, up to neutral rotation lang yung kaya niya. So this one, you can isolate the brachioradialis by flexing the elbow while it is in a mid-prone position. So we call that the beer position, di ba? Beer drinking kasi is elbow flexion with your forearm in mid-prone. So this is called the beer muscle. So its greatest moment arm will be at 100 to 120 degrees. Okay, 100 to 120 degrees. So a lot of our everyday activities will require the mid-prone position. So it's very important for this to be functional. Okay, mid-prone elbow flexor. Supinated elbow flexor, biceps. Pronated elbow flexor, the most active there will be the brachialis. Okay, and then the supinator. The supinator is the muscle that will supinate the forearm, especially when you are in an elbow extended position. Because when the elbow is flexed, you will recruit your biceps brachii. So the supinator will exert more effort to supinate the forearm whenever your elbow is in extension. So if you want to isolate the action of the supinator, you have to supinate with the elbow extended, okay, to deactivate your biceps. So this one only acts purely for supination. It doesn't have any contribution to flexion or extension of the elbow. And to maximally supinate, it can also be assisted by your brachioradialis, but only up to neutral. Your APL, EPB, and your extensor indicis. Now, to some degree, depending on the starting position of the arm, it can also help with supination. Okay? Again, supinator when the elbow is extended. Because when you flex the elbow, you will recruit the biceps brachii. Okay? Gets ito? So, yun lang kaayo ni guys. Okay, this is the brachioradialis for elbow flexion and mid-pronation. This is the supinator. The supinator is the muscle that wraps around the radius. Okay, paikot siya. So that when it contract, it will rotate the forearm into supination. Okay, supinator on the radius. Then, our last two muscles, we have may triceps pa pala. Pronator teres and the pronator quadratus. So the pronator teres is actually capable of elbow flexion, but because of its position, it's angled, it's oblique, angled obliquely. So it doesn't really have a very good line of pull for flexion. It can do flexion, but it doesn't have that much force generated. It has the line of pull of the muscle contributes more to pronation compared to flexion. So there are other muscles capable of flexing the elbow much more strongly than the pronator teres. So this one can flex the elbow, but it's more concerned with pronating the forearm. Okay, because of its position, the line of pull, it's oblique. So it can do more pronation than it can contribute to flexion. It can, but not that much. Okay, so it's a more prominent forearm pronator. Okay, and then this one at the bottom, it's very, very small. It's very deep. We cannot palpate for this one. This is the pronator quadratus. So it contributes very little to the pronation actually. It contributes more to stabilizing the distal radioulnar joint. Now, because of its attachment, anterior surface of the radius to anterior surface of the ulna, it keeps the distal radioulnar joint from getting displaced. So it's concerned more for stability of your distal radioulnar joint and contributes little to the pronation. Konti lang yung pronation dyan. Most of the force will still come from your pronator teres. Okay? Gets yon? Okay, so if you're asked, what is the primary pronator of the forearm, then do not answer pronator quadratus. Look for the pronator teres. The last one is your triceps brachii. So it has 3 heads. Only the long head can contribute to the shoulder, but all 3 of them will contribute to elbow extension, okay, regardless of the position of the forearm. Nakasupinate, pronate, or mid-prone, the triceps will act in all 3 positions. Okay, out of the 3 of them, the lateral head is the largest, the medial head is the smallest. So the most force generating will be the lateral head. Okay, greatest extension force at 70 to 90 degrees, and it's what controls the elbow flexion because most of our activities kasi require flexion of the elbow. So to control that motion, the triceps is frequently doing eccentric contraction. Okay. And then another accessory muscle that you can find right next to the triceps. It doesn't really contribute much, but it does initiate elbow flexion. That's why when we palpate for the anconeus later, we don't do it with the elbow already in full extension. Okay, we palpate it during the first few degrees of extension. because it helps to initiate your elbow extension. Okay? At some point, the triceps will take over. So the unconus doesn't really exert that much effort. Only 10 to 15% of the extensor force needed to extend the elbow. Okay, so it's almost similar to your pronator quadratus. No, little motion lang siya. It contributes more to the unconus contributes more to tightening the posterior capsule. Okay, to help stabilize the posterior um, elbow. Okay, so you can palpate for this one. So, madali lang yun siya hanapin. It looks like this. This is the unconus, and then this is your triceps. You have the long head, you have the lateral head, and then here you have the medial head. Then you have the, what do you call this? You have the unconus. So, to find the unconus later when we're palpating, you have to find the epicondyle first and the olecranon process because andito lang yan siya sa gitna. A very tiny muscle. You can feel that during the first few degrees of extension. Okay. Kuha yon. So you have elbow flexors, biceps brachii, brachialis, no, a little bit from the pronator teres and your brachioradialis. Then the supinators, you have the biceps brachii, as long as the elbow is flexed. The supinator when the elbow is extended. And then two pronators, you have the pronator teres and your pronator quadratus. For elbow extension, you have two, the unconus and your triceps. But between the two, the unconus will just help with the initiation of elbow extension. The rest of the muscle force will come from the triceps. If papiliin kayo which among the three heads of the triceps, choose the lateral head because it's the largest and the strongest. Okay? The rest of the muscles that you can find in the forearm, no, they don't actually move the forearm anymore. They're just passing through. Okay? The muscle bellies of our wrist and hand muscles will pass through the area. Okay? You have your pronator teres here, and then underneath that, you have the flexor muscles of the wrist. No, palmaris longus, your flexor carpi ulnaris, flexor carpi radialis, and your flexor digitorum underneath. At the back naman, you have your extensor muscles. Okay, sorry, this is the deeper end. If you remove all of the superficial muscle, your FPL and your FDP and your pronator quadratus. The back of the hand, now on the forearm, you have your brachiorads, your ECRL, you have your ECRB, you have your extensor digitorum, you have your extensor carpi ulnaris, and your extensor indicis. Then here you have your Apollo and your El Pobre, your APB and your EPL, and your EPB. So all of your muscles will just pass through. We will discuss these ones in your wrist and hand lecture. Dumadaan lang sila. They're just passing through. So they don't really contribute to the elbow or forearm motions. Okay, so deeper muscles. This one will contribute, the supinator. Then your APL, your EPB, and your EPL. And then you have your extensor indicis. Extensor digitorum. Extensor digitinum. Okay? So passing through lang sila. So those deeper muscles are also attaching to the interosseous membrane. Okay. Last structure to discuss, we have your ligaments. So konti lang din yung ligaments na clinically important for us because these are the ligaments that you will be testing in the open pack position. Okay? If you have instability of the elbow, it's usually because we have injuries to the ligaments. So you have ligaments on the medial side of the elbow and lateral side of the elbow. So your collateral ligaments, let's start with your ulnar collateral ligaments or your medial collateral ligaments. So interchangeable because the ulna is on the medial side, the radius is on the lateral side. Okay? So what to remember, kapag medial side, it will resist valgus stresses, meaning stress that come from the outside, pushing the elbow inside. So it will, valgus stresses are coming from the outside. It will it will cause the medial end of the elbow to go like this. So munga nga siya, medially. So the one that prevents excessive valgus stresses will be the medial collateral ligament. Okay, it also helps to limit elbow extension so that it will not sublux posteriorly. Our elbow, the more common direction for elbow dislocation is posterior. Okay, matulak siya palikod. Posterior elbow dislocation is the more common dislocation that can happen in our elbow. So the MCL is very important for preventing um, subluxation. Okay, so greatest restraint, major restraint against valgus stresses whenever the elbow is in 20 to 120 degrees of flexion. Okay, so yun lang i-remember. MCL, valgus, stress. Prevents valgus stress. Yung opposite niya on the lateral side, preventing varus stress or stresses coming from the inside, pushing the elbow outwards. So the one that resists that is your lateral or your radial collateral ligaments, your LCL. Okay, LCL on the lateral side. It's more fan shaped and it resists varus stresses at 120 to 120 degrees of flexion. So whenever it is in an open pack position, okay, going into an open pack position. So this one is stronger than your ulnar collateral ligament because they have more fibers. It's also more common to have injury of the ulnar collateral ligament because we have a natural tendency to go into varus, to go into more valgus because of the carrying angle. Okay, so the greater the carrying angle, the more damage to your medial collateral ligament. It's less common to have a varus stress to the elbow. So less common ang lateral collateral ligament injury. Okay. Again, the carrying angle predisposes our elbow to go into a valgus position. That's why mas more common ang injury sa medial collateral ligaments. Okay? Nagets yon? Yun lang actually yung kailangan ma-remember. Your LCL and your MCL. Okay, pag medial, it will prevent valgus stress. Pag lateral, it will prevent varus stress. Okay? Nagets yon? Nagets yon. Sige. Are you familiar with the cubital tunnel? Yes, no? Okay, familiar na. So the structure passing through that is the ulnar nerve. You can find the cubital tunnel on the medial side of the elbow. That's why if you have excessive valgus of the elbow, no, cubital valgus, or nagka-injury to the medial collateral ligament, it's possible to injure the ulnar nerve as well. Okay? So medial collateral ligament and the ulnar nerve will be injured if you have excessive valgus stress on the elbow. Okay? So ulnar tunnel, it's the tunnel where your ulnar nerve will pass through. So hindi ko na discuss since you're familiar already. Okay, it's here. So when you say, diba there's a saying na may funny bone. Now, if you tap on the medial end, on the medial side of the elbow, there's an electric-like sensation here. So it's not actually a bone. You're actually tapping on the ulnar nerve as it passes through your ulnar or cubital tunnel. Okay, so it's on the medial side of the elbow. Yeah. Another area where your ulnar nerve will pass through is your arcade of Struthers. This one, was this discussed also? Pero hindi ko na siya discuss. Was this discussed? Okay. So that's just another area. Okay. After it passes through the ulnar tunnel, it goes downwards and then it will now pass through your arcade of Struthers. Okay. The arcade of Struthers. So, sorry. Before it goes to the ulnar tunnel. So, here kasi yung cubital tunnel mo. So, in here, proximally, the ulnar nerve, it goes down from the brachial plexus. It passes through the arcade of Struthers here. Okay, and then it goes downwards towards the medial epicondyle. This is now your cubital tunnel here. Okay, so you can have 2 points of impingement. Here, more proximally, that's the arcade of Struthers. And then, sa baba, at the level of your medial epicondyle, it passes through your cubital tunnel. Pwede din siya maipit dyan. Okay? That's for the ulnar nerve on the medial side of the elbow. For the radial nerve, ito, is this familiar? The arcade of Frosch or the supinator arch? Yes, no. No. Okay. So, this is additional na lang to what your previous prof taught you. On the lateral side of the elbow, that is where you can find the supinator. Diba? The supinator wraps around your radius on the lateral side. So in your supinator, may butas yan siya dyan. Okay, there's a hole there where your radial nerve will pass through. Okay, this is the supinator muscle here. So there's an opening there. We call that the arcade of Frosch. Okay, it's an arch like this, creating that hole for the radial nerve to pass through. So the arcade of Frosch, no, the one that passes through here is the radial nerve. Okay, so it's between the two heads of your supinator. Okay, so if you have a problem with the supinator, for example, it inflamed, there was an injury. So the inflammation can cause impingement of the radial nerve. Okay, because it's the nerve passing through the arcade of Frosch, which you can find between the two heads of the supinator. Okay, so specifically, the posterior interosseous branch of the radial nerve. Okay, the one that passes through there is the posterior interosseous branch of your radial nerve. Because right before it passes through that area, it branches off here. Ito yung anterior. Okay, and then the posterior will go down to pass through the arcade of Frosch. Okay, it's the one that innervates your posterior forearm muscles. So this one is purely motor. Do we understand? So ulnar tunnel on the medial side, arcade of Struthers on the medial side. Both of them are for the ulnar nerve. On the lateral side of the elbow, just between the two supinator heads, you have an arch, the arcade of Frosch, to allow the posterior interosseous nerve, a branch of the radial nerve, to pass through. Do we understand? Because if I have a patient who had an injury, let's say a laceration, okay? What if they got injured by a knife or a cutter, and then it cut through the lateral side of your elbow like this? So you might have problems moving the wrist because a nerve can be cut in that area. Do we get it? Okay, just between the two heads of the radius, two heads of the supinator, there's a nerve that passes through the posterior interosseous nerve, which is a branch of the radial nerve. So it's on the lateral side. So if you have an injury in this area, it might injure the posterior interosseous nerve as well, leading to weakness of all the muscles that it innervates on the posterior forearm. Okay? So the part kung asa mosulod ang imuhang posterior interosseous nerve, the area where it passes through between the two heads, that's your arcade of Frosch or the supinator arch. Okay, on the lateral elbow. Do we get it? Nakasabot ato na ay buslot sa lateral side. Ang moagi didto ang radial nerve. Posterior interosseous branch of the radial nerve. Nagets? Okay, so may ulnar nerve, may radial nerve, may butas din para kay median nerve. On the medial side again, this one is not always present. Okay, this is aberrant, meaning some individuals might have this one, others might not. Okay? So we have what we call your ligament obstructors. So different yung arcade of strutters before. Pag arcade of strutters, the one passing through that area is the ulnar nerve. When we say ligament of strutters, if it is present, the one that passes through the space that it creates is the median nerve. Okay, so it attaches here to here. It's not always present, but if it is, then it creates an arch or a hole for your median nerve. Dito siya dadaan. Okay, if it is present. So it creates a tunnel for your median nerve if it's present. Okay, it's aberrant. It's not always present. But if it is, now the narrower the space is, it might impinge your median nerve, okay, on the medial side of the elbow. So if it becomes more frequent, no, when you have a median nerve injury kasi it makes it difficult to grip. Okay, so usually they just cut off the ligament of strutters so that it no longer causes impingement for the median nerve. Okay, in worst case scenarios, the patient cannot tolerate it. Okay, so those are the tunnels in the elbow that could lead to impingement of our nerves. So this is the ligament of strutters. It creates a tunnel. So pwede maipit si median nerve dira. Okay, as it passes through your elbow region. Okay, nagets yon. So you have an arcade of Frosch for the radial nerve, ligament of Strutters for the median nerve, arcade of Strutters for your ulnar nerve, and your ulnar tunnel or cubital tunnel for the ulnar nerve. Okay, so areas of impingement of our nerves. So it becomes heightened kasi with elbow movement because if the tunnels become narrowed, it can further impinge on these um, nerves, on these peripheral nerves. Okay? Nagets yon? Nagets yon? And what about the others? Okay. Konti na lang. Let's go to functional activities. So again, 30 to 130 degrees, that's the functional range of the elbow. Normally, we put the arm or we put the elbow in 90 degrees of flexion and then in mid-prone position. So depending on the activity, we can adjust the amount of flexion and the amount of extension and how much rotation is needed. So most of the time, midway is safe. Then you can just supinate or pronate the hands, the forearm, if we want to do a specific motion. Okay? And then for feeding, then you need all three areas: elbow, shoulder, wrist, and hand. So in your Brunstrom, they mentioned two functional activities na pinaka-important where the elbow is concerned. So placing the hand behind the head, so overhead activities requiring reaching, flexion, and extension, and pulling activities. When you push and when you pull, it requires elbow flexion and elbow extension. Okay, so let's go to photos. When placing the hand behind the head, it will require shoulder abduction, external rotation, and flexion and extension. So pinaka-common is when you're grooming, or you're trying to lather shampoo on your hair, you're trying to comb your hair, it requires movement, elbow flexion, and pronation supination of the forearm. Okay, it also requires you to do gripping and flexion, slight flexion or extension of the wrist. So common functional movements, placing the hand behind the head. So you do overhead activities with flexion and extension repetitively. Okay. And then we also have pulling activities. So you have a lot of exercises requiring pulling. So depending on um, what muscle group you're trying to target more, you can change the position of your forearm. Okay. So looking at the photo now, Is this an open kinematic or closed kinematic exercise? Is this an OKC or CKC exercise? Sige daw, let's apply. Because in order for you um, to pull yourself up, you need to flex the elbow, okay, and extend the shoulder. Is this OKC or CKC? Kanina may nag-answer ng OKC. OKC, CKC. Okay, why is this CKC? Okay, what is fixed here and what is moving? Okay, the distal is fixed, diba? It's holding on to the bar. And the one that's moving to pull yourself up is actually the elbow and the shoulder. Now you are flexing the elbow and you're extending the shoulder in order to pull yourself upward. So this is a CKC exercise. Okay, so pulling, now doing a chin up, that's a CKC exercise. So what is doing a concentric contraction here? Since it's CKC, it requires co-contraction, multiple muscles. So what muscles will be contracting concentrically to allow you to do the chin up? Sige daw. Let's start at the elbow. What is contracting concentrically at the elbow? Oh, especially since what do you call this? Nakasupinate siya. So the biceps will be recruited. But again, the brachialis, because it is a workhorse, it will also be contracting here. Okay? You have to flex the elbow. What about the shoulder? What muscle in the shoulder will be exercised here or will require greater force generation so that you can pull yourself up? This one will have concentric contraction of what muscle? Okay, posterior delts, pwede. What else? To propel yourself upwards, you have to extend, adduct, and rotate the shoulder. Okay, na-highlight na nga siya guys. Oh. This big muscle here will pull yourself upwards. That's your latissimus dorsi. Okay, the lats, even the trapezius will help. Okay, to pull yourself. Kasi the scapula has to be stable. So your serratus, your traps will still be contracting here. But in order for you to move up, you need to contract the latissimus dorsi. So this is a good anti-gravity, close kinematic chain activity for your lats. Okay. If we make it into an open kinematic chain activity, then you have to fix the proximal segment and then move your distal segment. So this is just making that exercise open kinematic. Okay, you are moving now the distal segments and stabilizing the proximal segments. So it's still a lats exercise. Now you're still doing concentric activity of your biceps when you pull it down. And when you slowly put it back into its original position, you are doing eccentric exercise. Okay? So whenever you do exercises, you pull it down to do concentric contraction. Don't let it go. Wag mo siyang bitawan kaagad. Okay? Because when you slowly put it back into its original position, you are still exercising the muscle, but you are now doing eccentric contraction. Okay? So, a lot of pulling activities, even though the target muscle is truly the lats dorsi, it still requires you to do elbow flexion and extension. So, you are doing exercises for both the shoulder and the elbow. Actually, pati imuhang wrist and hand bangusog ana. That's why a lot of patients nagka-cramps yung kanilang forearm muscle here because pangit din ang hold nila sa bar. Okay, they're doing like this when in fact it should be stabilized in a neutral position or slightly extended depending on the position of the forearm. Okay, so the point here is that you are doing a shoulder exercise, but it will still require you to move the elbow. So you are also exercising the elbow muscles. Okay, because in order to do pulling activities, it requires elbow motions. Okay. So how is this different from this one? Aside sa mas klaro ni siya. What is the difference here? This person, no, they're still exercising the lats, but something changed. So what changed between the two exercises? Okay, what about the grip? Okay, so the grip is not the one that's pronated, it's the forearm. Okay, so in here, you are still exercising the lats dorsi, but this time you are not making use of the biceps because you put the forearm in a pronated position. Therefore, if we are thinking about the elbow muscles, who among the elbow muscles will now be contracting more? Since you already deactivated the forearm, the biceps in the forearm. So, sino na ngayon ang nagko-contract sa elbow? Which muscle in the elbow is now contracting more to help during the exercise? It's now fully pronated. Okay, tama kayo dyan. So, who will now do the elbow flexion? Elbow flexion. Who will now be responsible for most of the elbow flexion when I pull it down? Okay. Okay. Sige. Biceps is flexion with supination. Brachioradialis is flexion with mid-pronation or neutral rotation. So when you go into a pronated position and then do elbow flexion, it will now be care of your brachialis. Okay, so if I want to target my brachialis while I am exercising my lats dorsi, then I will just change my forearm position. Okay, so that I can force my brachialis to contract more because the biceps will be deactivated. Okay, do we get it? No, just by changing the position of the forearm, you are changing the target muscle for the elbow. Okay, sige, good. How about this one? So how is this different now? Kasi you have one machine but you can change the target muscle just by changing the position. So what's the difference here? I'll go back to the previous this one versus this one. So what's the difference now? Sino yung mga gymmers dyan? Para educated na, may guesses na kayo. When you go to the gym again, what muscle am I exercising? Okay, what's the difference here? Pronator muscles. What else? I'll go back to the previous photo so you can see. So this is exercise 1. So it's still a pulling activity, but how is it different from this one? Okay, this one and this one. Aside from the wider grip. So tama naman, wider grip. Okay. But how is this different? Okay, kasali ang traps. Okay, basta overhead activity, may traps talaga yan. Diba? To stabilize the scapula. But I want to see I want to see you tell me the difference. This is the first one from extended and then pulled it down. The second photo is this and then they pulled it down. So what's the difference? What is the difference? Okay. Okay, very vague. Ang different muscle. Yes, different din siya. But why? Okay, lats are more isolated. Kasali ang pec muscles. Pulling posteriorly behind the head. Ayan, finally saw it. This one, you are pulling, no? You're pulling the bar down, but in front of the chest. Tama? Well, this one, This one, you're pulling it downwards, but the ending position is behind the head. So what will happen now? Now, if you do a pull up, a pull down in front of the chest versus when you do a pull down behind. So what happens? Sige daw. So that it makes sense. Why it's okay for me to have two different pull down exercises, but I will change the end position because essentially I am also changing a target muscle. So, which one? When I do like this versus when I do like this behind the head, what happens? Sali ang pec muscles. Asa siya appeal? First, sa A or sa B? This is A. This is B. Okay, so what's the difference between the two? Anybody? Wala na yung mag-guess. What muscle groups? You have to be specific. Sige na lang. What is the added motion? What motion was added? You compare this one, this is the end position of the first exercise, versus this one. So what is the ending position? What is the difference? Kasi same sila eh, naka elbow flexion, but this one, no, naka-neutral pa nga yung kanyang wrist, but this one already has a slightly extended wrist. How about the shoulder? No? What happened to the shoulder here versus here? What happened? Okay, shoulder depression sa second pick. Yes, there was more retraction happening. Okay, so in any overhead activity, you can still have activation of the trapezius and your serratus anterior. But when the person changed the position, no, behind the head na siya, it will pull the shoulder into more. See, you activated the middle and the lower trapezius here, okay, as you went down. So there was activation of the traps, more activation of the traps as you went down. Plus, you put the shoulder in a more externally rotated position. Okay, naka-ER na siya. Look at this one versus this one. Okay, so mas abducted and more ER na siya. So this one was focusing more on the lats. This one, you are adding the traps, okay, the retractors to your muscle activity. Okay, tapos you have external rotation, so you are also activating your lateral rotators, the infraspinatus and a little bit of the teres minor. So just a change in the position, no, the same pulling activity, but a change in the position will help you activate more or different muscle groups. Okay, so yes, changing the position will change the target muscle groups, but you should be able to tell. Okay, what did we add or what did we remove? So that the next time you give a patient an exercise, you are really targeting the muscle you want to target. Okay, so pulling exercises require elbow flexion extension, but changing the position of the shoulder and the wrist will also change the muscles that will be contracting. What about this one? This is still a pulling exercise. But what is my target now? What are the elbow and forearm motions here? Okay. Diba? Just by changing the angle of the pulling activity, I am no, well, you're still exercising the lats because you're still doing downward movement, no extension of the shoulder, but you actively stop here and then try to pull it downwards, which will now activate your triceps. Okay, so this exercise will exercise the lats, and at this point, it will now exercise the triceps. Okay, so it's still a pulling activity, but it will now target your triceps. Nakuha yon. So this is what we mean na you only need one machine because changing your position and changing the angle of your pulse will change the muscle that is targeted. Okay, so you can even do this with no at home if you can improvise. So depende na sa imuhang resourcefulness. Okay, any questions? Any questions for the elbow and the forearm? So it's easy lang. Okay? Mas makuratan mo pag mag-wrist and hand ta. Do you understand? Any questions? Sige. So I want you to look at your elbow elbow chapter in Brunstrom para mabasa nyo ahead of time how to palpate for the elbow muscles. Actually, isabay natin sila with the wrist and hand because konti lang naman yung elbow muscles. So if you have the time, now or when you're studying for the quiz tomorrow, don't just look at the old trances from the second years because I've added a lot in my slides for you for this term. And if you read the books, you will understand more. Okay, my exams are not limited to the slides. I take questions from the book as well. So please try to read the book. Okay, may PDF naman akong send. No questions? Let's see. But sure ang kinetics. Okay, Oina for the RD. I will use Snell, but si Brunstrom kasi na-specify niya yung joints. So, I will accept the Snell basta masabi niya sa akin ang joint, specific joint. Okay, for example, the brachialis. So, the brachialis is a flexor of the elbow. But you have to tell me that no, the brachialis is a flexor of the humeroradial and humeroulnar joint. Okay? If it's the biceps, then it's a flexor of the glenohumeral joint, flexor of the humeroulnar, humeroradial joints, and the supinator of the proximal and distal radioulnar joints. So, ganyan magbigay ng oina for the RD. Okay? Any other questions? So tomorrow for sure I will give the kinetics na quiz. Ay, nag-kinetics na ba ako? Nag-kinetics na ako, no? Muscle tissue quiz. And then shoulder. Sige. Yung elbow quiz together with the wrist and hand na lang next week. So tomorrow, the quizzes will be muscle physio and shoulder kinesiology. Okay? Okay. So let's wait for the announcement if they clear the area for face-to-face. If they do, then we go face-to-face tomorrow and we will continue with the RD. If we don't, then I will just do the lecture for wrist and hand and the spine. Okay? So wait na lang tayo sa ano. Naglinog daw gabi, wala jud ko ka-feel. Dili na siguro ko mamatay guys kung maglinog tapos tulog ko. Okay? So let's hope na it doesn't shake again. Shake, rattle, and roll. Okay, if there are no more questions, I'll see you tomorrow if it's possible. If not, then through Google Meet again. Thank you and bye bye.